Hey Sherrie, how you doing?
Hey Dave, I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I can't complain. With all full disclosure, we've been chatting for a bit before this
What?
anyway.
No, I've
I
never
know.
been here before.
Gave it away. I gave it away. Today's podcast guest here on Real Discussions is Sherrie Fell. Sherrie was one of the comedians with the roundtable of comedians that we did a little while back. Sherrie is a very funny stand-up comedian. She has me laughing at multiple bits that she has done, and she's also a writer. And I'm going to let you introduce yourself a bit here, and kind of explain how you got into doing stand-up, which can be a very you have to have a lot of uh, courage, I think, to do stand-up. So it's not easy. But you've also done writing, you've done editing. I know we talked a little bit about that the first time we spoke.
Yeah.
Um, so how did you get into this whole thing?
Well, I studied acting,
Ah,
and it didn't go in the route that I had anticipated, which was a really direct route, you know, agent, movies, fame, done. Like that was like, yeah, that's how I saw it. It didn't really go that route. So after I get out of acting school and was taking outside classes and trying to get an agent, and then I got an agent, and then I got like a couple of weird gigs here and there, and then I needed to pay bills, and I was like, wow, I'm not really in charge of the next step. It seems somebody has to, it's like somebody has to grant you entry,
mhm,
which is an agent, which then is a casting director,
mhm.
right? You're granted entry. And I was like, okay, well, I accept that, but wow, what can I do in the meantime? So I took some kind of a, what is that kind of like a change things around class?
Yeah, yeah,
Hey.
yeah.
And somehow it enveloped itself into doing stand up as like a breakaway. Like,
Hmm.
why don't you try stand up? And I
Yeah.
was like, okay. And so then I gave it a go, and it was kind of fun and kind of like empowering because I was in charge.
Hmm.
Nobody could tell me, nobody had to tell me when I could perform. I could perform whenever I want. I mean, it was open mics. Like it wasn't necessarily paying jobs, but it was still performance where I was being seen
Hmm.
what I wanted to be. So that's kind of like was the jumping off point for me, was just because it was trying something new to be able to perform without being hired to perform.
Hmm.
So that
It's interesting because I know guys like Dennis Leary wanted to be an actor. He couldn't get work, and then he started doing stand up. Same thing with John Leguizamo.
hmm
And there's been a couple of other guys too, that I know of, and women too, who were trying to get acting jobs and then they couldn't. And then they were like, "Well, I'm just going to go." What do you think it is about stand up, that? And you may have answered it already, but what do you think it is about stand up that draws certain people who aren't getting acting work at that time to go up and do it? Do you think it's a way to express your frustrations? Do you think it's a way to, it does get, I'm there myself. That's why I got involved in directing and,
yeah,
writing and everything and producing, is I got tired of needing some casting director who 9 times out of 10 had no training, didn't even know what they were doing,
mm,
telling me whether or not I was going to get work. It just frustrated
right.
me. So what do you think it is as far as comedians?
Well, for me, which might be different for other people, it was like I studied performance. I studied being in front of people. And so it was a way to get in front of people. It was also a little high maintenance because then I had to write it.
Mm, right.
So then thereby it exercised a whole other part of your brain where it's like, yeah, you're up there, but you're not getting a script handed to you. You have to then write the script. And then that's a whole other kind of a talent. And if you don't have it, you're taking, but a lot of people don't. I did care, but a lot of people don't care. They're just like, well, I got up. And it's like, great. But I was like, yeah, I want to get up, but I also want to then I was like, well, I want to say something if I have the podium.
Hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then what? And then I have to figure out, well, what do I want to say? And then it became sort of a whole other facet of me that I discovered. So it wasn't like I went with the intention of having to say something or getting frustrations out. It was like, well, now that I'm here, well, how am I going to use this time? Because, unless I'm going to be a character, which I wasn't
Yeah.
going, I mean, but some people work on that. Like, I mean, I can't think of the top of my head. I mean, Roseanne was kind of a character, but it was also who she was. She was a housewife from Detroit, but she also kind of, like, it became her persona, right?
Right.
You know what I
Wait.
mean? So
Yeah.
like I didn't necessarily want to create a character. I kind of just, I just wanted to utilize the platform to be able to, do a monologue that, well, was me, even though I would prefer, I studied to be able to be other people, to express through me. But, this was like, you know, kind of liking to be able to express it as me. So then I became the conduit instead of a character.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
sorry, let me turn this off. Um so it just kind of formulated by itself. The intention really was just to, you know, be able to get out there, because, if you're, like you said, like if you're an actor, or um even a director who needs to get, like, if you are not doing what you're doing, you're kind of like, it's not a happy place to be. So
Yeah.
you have to figure out, well, how else can I utilize um this skill and be out there
Hmm.
whenever I want to,
Yeah.
and with stand up, it's kind of just like, sometimes they ask you to bring people, but otherwise it's free.
Hmm.
Whereas with the director, then you have to, you still have to get money to make the film.
Yeah.
But it's something, like, I just think it's a lot of these things are born out of necessity, not out of like, uh, well, this is the way to this. It's like, well, I, I just got to do something. So
Hmm.
then, the writing sort of came out of that, right? So then I was like, oh, look at this. Oh, well, I love film and I love TV, and, well, wow, can I maybe work myself into that? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then the
Yeah.
editing came out of that, which is, that's more like something that's a skill, as opposed to somewhere I really want to be, because I don't really like to be locked in a room for 10 hours. I found out.
I know. I know. I used to feel like I was when I would do it, and I don't know if I was making a living, but it was my primary source of income for a while, and I just used to feel like I was hunkering down in a submarine, and we were going to be going underwater for a while.
Oh,
And
what, in editing, you mean?
when I edited, yeah, I would come down into my office, and I would be dark, and I would have like some lights on, and I felt like I was going on like the expedition for 2 hours to go see the Titanic, and then you're spending like another 8 hours down surveying the ship, and you never know if there's going to be a technical problem you now need to Google because you've
Oh
never run
God.
into this before or whatever. So, yeah, editing, I thought, I mean, I did it. I'm going to do the editing for the rough cut of the next film we're doing, but I'm not doing the finishing edit. So it's just like, I can't. And I enjoy it, but I don't love it. And it's very technical, but there's a skill to it. Um, Making scenes come together, that's the thing that's really fascinating
Yeah.
is when you edit something and it's just a bunch of moments and then you turn it into, so it's like baking almost, I would imagine. I don't bake,
Yeah.
but if I did, uh I've
Make a
imagined,
movie.
yeah, bake a
Make
movie.
a movie.
I've never thought of that. I should just take all the footage, put it in the oven and see what
Yeah,
happens.
Dave, I mean, I don't know what you've been wasting your time in the editing room for.
I don't know. It's so stupid. It's beyond dumb on my end, but So the editing thing was something that you did, but I mean, I think most performers feel the call to go up on stage, and have what they're doing be seen and be heard. And
Mm.
there's a nice feeling like when you say something, and I've seen it in your stand up. I mean, you say stuff. You have a very engaged way of kind of like tapping right into your audience, and then they come back. It's interesting. It's like almost like you got a ping pong match going, and you just sometimes go whack, like you whack that ping pong at them, and they hit it back, and then you whack
Right.
it back. And I remember when we were first talking, before we did the comedians roundtable. I was looking at a bunch of your stuff, and I'm like, wow, she controls that room and that audience really well. So I think something that it seems that you do, and I'm curious what your process is, because I've never done stand up, but I've done theater. So I've read an audience. I know that the Sunday crowd, if they're awake, is going to be different than the Friday night crowd where everyone
Right.
just wants to, or Saturday.
Right.
When you get up on stage and you feel the audience, how do
Mm.
you know where you're going with it? Do you feel something? Do you think is it instinctive? Because you do it so well. So I'm just curious what happens for you when you go up.
Well, it's really funny because I had this girlfriend once.
Hmm.
So funny. And I think she had listened to my stand-up. She was a very funny girl.
Okay.
She once told me, this was a long time ago, and she said to me, Sherrie, your your comedy itself isn't really funny, but your content isn't really funny, but the way you say it, your delivery
Hmm.
is amazing. And I was like, you have to think about that. And I was like, wait,
Yeah.
is that a compliment? But I didn't really, I mean, I kind of got what she said, and then I kind of didn't. And then like years have passed, and I was like, you know what? She's actually extremely right. Um, Sometimes, and so this is kind of answering your question. So, um, I I feel like sometimes I never know, like my delivery will like throw out a line that is just a throwaway line.
Mm.
Like not even the line that I think is the line.
Yeah.
And people will be laughing and I'll be very, very shocked. And I'll like, wow. So it is about this like crazy delivery that I don't really even have control over because I'm experiencing it with them.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Sometimes I'll get into it. It's really like a meditation being up there.
Mm.
Or it's really like a focus, like with I would compare it to like sports or anything where you have to really get into it,
Hmm.
where you're so into it that you're just like, I mean, I'm not a baseball player or anything, but I would imagine like sports people who are really into what they're doing, when they like make a hit, they're like so in it.
In the zone. Hmm.
Not that they don't go into up to bat wanting to hit a home run,
Yeah.
but they're so like into it, it's kind of like they're not even thinking about it anymore. And I
Yeah.
feel like sometimes when I get on stage and I can like really talk to them, to people, I'm so in it that I'm like not even aware that we're actually having like it becomes conversational.
Mm.
And that's when it really becomes really fun, because
Yeah.
I'm like, oh shit, I'm actually talking to them and I'm not saying these lines.
Yeah.
But like, getting in and reading a room, um I mean, I think that I think that wow, I think it really depends where you are, because I think the audience will come around because to you, if you really like are in there. You know what I'm saying? Like they could be
Yeah.
like, fuck this shit. I'm not
Yeah.
in the mood. What's she got to say? She doesn't look funny. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then you'll say something, they're like, oh, I love her. She's great.
Yeah. Yeah. You change it.
No,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean? But I
Yeah.
think that I think any audience could go anywhere.
Hmm.
And it's definitely easier when a crowd is, like you said, like a Friday night crowd has been warmed up by some like crazy, fantastic comedian, like,
Yeah.
like, where, and then you go on and you can just like ride that energy, but you still have to be funny because that'll only last for a second. You can
Yeah.
lose those people too in a second. They'll be like, yeah, bitch, I want to talk to my girlfriend I have on a date here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's like that. I think that because some of the stuff that you've probably seen and that I posted, there was one show where it was just like one of the strangest kind of spaces where there was like a outside behind me, and then there was like there was an echo on the mic, and there was no place for people to sit, and it was like a weird bar, and I was like, ooh, this is gonna be interesting.
Yeah. Right.
But
Right.
actually it ended up being really fun and great, and because people want to laugh, and they
Hmm.
want you to make them laugh.
All
They
right.
don't want you to make them feel awkward or make them feel sorry for you. That's the
Yeah.
worst.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
like, please be funny. You know what I'm saying? Like, people really want that. So I think it's your job when you go up there to make sure that, you can like be as present as possible. I
Hmm.
think that's all you can do is be as present as possible.
Yeah.
And then take it from there. And then if what you're saying resonates, like once you kind of have people's attention, then they're gonna listen, and
Hmm.
they're gonna be like, all right.
Yeah.
But if you don't if you start off like not, then you got more work to do. It's like I would say it's like trying to swim towards shore in a riptide.
Hmm.
Like, oop. I'm
Yeah.
working real hard now, and all I'm doing is going further back.
Yeah.
I've experienced that, so
And what was that like when you experienced that? What was there something you don't have to say what it is, but was there something that you felt you did, or was there something going on? Was there something outside of your control that made you feel like you were getting pulled into that riptide?
I'll tell you, I because it doesn't matter now, but it was a really stupid situation,
Yeah.
which has nothing really to do with the performance, except you could say I was a pretty inexperienced stand-up performer at that time. On top of the fact that the reason I got the gig was because this guy that liked me, his sister hired the comedians.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Okay.
and I thought we were just friends,
Uh-huh.
and apparently before this gig that he had gotten me, he had gotten kind of felt rejected by me.
Uh-oh.
So when I got to the venue, his
Hmm.
sister was not very pleased with me, nor was he. So it was a very like very restricted environment. So again, if I were had been like had a lot of years under my belt of that, I probably could have taken that and still worked it, but it kind of shook me. So
Yeah.
therefore it
Yeah.
led down a path.
So you instead of being in the zone, it makes sense. I instead of being in the zone, you got in your head because of a lot of external crap that was going on. Other
That would be
people's
a better way to
hangups.
have said it. Yeah, that
That's
would
all
be
right.
a better way.
Other
You
people,
should write this.
other people's hangups became
Yeah.
your hang up in that moment. Um,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
that's a great actually for that's a great subtextual thing to happen for a movie or a film, but not in real life.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're giving your
Exactly.
character a real life. Like,
Yeah.
okay, so the subtext of the scene is
Hmm.
now,
Yeah.
it was like a lot of subtext going on.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's having that and still being able to perform. Like, it's like, it's somebody saying to you like, hey, you're fired, but go give one, we'd love you to go to do this meeting.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing. You're just all what, like, oh,
Yeah.
my last, why did I get, oh, here, go have the meeting and be good.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, it's just basically like that. So yeah, but it still wasn't enough of an experience, even though you can say that, there's a lot of extraneous stuff going on. But I could also tell you that within some very successful sets, I've had one or two, you know, things I've discussed that don't hit.
Yeah.
And I pretty much like just roll over them because
Yeah.
that's the
Well,
best thing to do.
absolutely. I mean, I've seen even like we watched Bill Burr had his stand up at the Colorado, I think it was.
Okay.
It's on. I think it's on Netflix, and he had a couple. I was laughing my ass off for most of it.
Yeah.
And he's a fellow redhead, so I gotta,
Yeah.
support the team. But
Yeah.
he had a couple, and everyone does that. I was like, huh, is that supposed to be funny or is that a setup for later? And
Right. Wow.
what he'll do though is he'll just go after, oh, that's not funny, folks. You're not laughing at that one, and he'll like, he'll go
Like it.
after them, and it's ballsy, because you're kind of saying, and in some cases it was because where he was going was he started talking about just how crazy life is now, and everything with COVID and the wokeness and the this and the that. So people didn't know if they could laugh, and it's Colorado.
Uh, uh-huh.
So he said something and people didn't laugh. And I was like, huh. But then I think he expected them not to laugh, which was fascinating because I doubt he thought all this out. Um, but I think he then used it as an opportunity to really pound home his points after that because he was like unrelenting when he started going after some stuff. So it's really interesting. I think what you said, uh, there's that so much of doing anything creative, and stand up is definitely creative,
Yeah.
is 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 bringing something to life that wasn't there a millisecond ago,
Hmm.
and you don't always know where that's coming from. That just happens. It's
Right.
You don't know, whether you're directing, you're making a movie, you're acting, you're doing stand up, you're writing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you don't know. Like when you edit, sometimes it's a little bit different. Like the structure of here's the whole movie,
Yeah.
here's this little scene, here's this scene. What is this scene is a movie in itself. It's like a little 2 to 5 minute, maybe 10 minute short that takes place in this larger film. So
Right.
I know what the purpose of this needs to be. You don't necessarily know what you're going to use or some of those amazing moments, but it's not like when you just go up and you get in the zone. And that was always my problem when I played sports. I couldn't get in
Yeah.
the zone of the
Mhm.
sport. I was always
Yeah.
trying to prepare for anything that could possibly happen. So the ball would get
Right.
hit out, and I'm like analyzing,
Right.
it's like, okay, well, hold on. And then by that point, it hit me in the head or, flew over me or whatever. So,
Well, it's funny, do you like Dave Chappelle?
yeah, love Dave Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle is like fascinates me to no end. He
He
is
just
like,
he just talks. I mean, talks. That's his whole thing is a conversation. Just having a
but
conversation with people.
their stories though. Their
Yep.
stories that are just so extremely profound and like and then he throws some like stops in there and some stops like you were saying like maybe not unlike Bill Burr, where he just like throws some spins in there, like says some like, you know, crazy shit to test the audience. Like, because I think when you're at that caliber, you know, it's like you're so good that
Yeah.
you can take your story and you can do flips in the middle of the story and still end up where you need to be because he's like he just knows where it's going, so he flips it here, flips it there, maybe points, talks to somebody in the audience, maybe
Yeah.
like, makes a reference about something now and then keeps going. I mean, that's like it's just incredible. Like,
Yeah.
and also I think what just makes me go crazy for him is that he's got a lot to say that's
Hmm.
so just pertinent in
Yeah.
his time period in which he's talking. You're just like, wow, you're covering the
Hmm.
shit,
Yeah.
the dirt and the grit that no one wants to cover. And it's not just like stupid jokes about, my wife hates me and doesn't give me sex and women. Like he's talking about like concepts and like racism and, fucking sexism and shit that people have gotten on him about, and he's like digging right in there. I mean, I think that the same thing about Sarah Silverman too. Like just like they punch right in there. I'm like,
Hmm.
wow, you guys are fucking brave and you cover it so um wait, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not gallant, but like gracefully. It's
Yeah.
just graceful. I'm like, wow, you covered like hard shit, and you just like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like I see him, and I'm just like, oh my God.
There's Jim. I don't know. Do you know Jim Brewer? I'm sure you do.
Dude, but I'm not I haven't watched his stuff in a while.
He did something that it's on. I don't know what it's on. It was on his like Jim Brewer channel on YouTube, and then there was like a copyright strike against him on his own channel. I don't know what was going on with it.
Wow.
And it's back though. But he did that. He went right into he took like the pandemic and punched it right in his nuts.
Ooh,
And
I want to see that.
yeah, I'll send you the link.
Yeah, okay.
My wife and I laughed our asses off because it was such a commentary on he went everywhere with it. And then he talked about like the governors, and it's
Yeah.
like, and he decided, he's like, in 5 years this is going to be a Broadway musical. And it's like, we're vaccinated, and he has them come in and shit. And then it's like, we're not vaccinated, you're the grandma killers. And then he did that whole thing. And then
Right. Oh wow.
and he's like, here come the governors. And he's like, he started goose stepping. And he's like, we are the governors, and it was just like, I was like, I don't, you don't even need to be Republican, Democrat, right or left
Right.
anymore. It's just about like, wow, that's calling the shit,
Right, which
calling,
circling back to like the Mel Brooks kind of comedy where,
yeah,
I feel like it's really kind of strange how maybe comedy is will come full circle again to people to where it can like people can talk about to anything again,
yeah,
because you're trying to talk about subjects that are hard by making fun of them.
yeah,
Instead
yeah.
of you're not trying to offend people, you're trying to say, hey, this is another way to approach something that's kind of like a little crazy right now.
Yeah, and like I said to you, and I said on that comedian pot roundtable we did, I feel, I didn't always feel that way, but as time has gone on, that comedians are really like, the gatekeepers of sanity for
Mm,
society, because they start to see their whole job is to observe.
yeah.
Well, your whole job, you're right here. You're one of them.
Where?
Um,
Okay.
what?
Where'd I go? Where'd I
But
go?
it's like that's your job. You observe, and then you comment, and you comment on things that people can relate to, which is, society and life and what we're going through. So I just find it really, really fascinating to have, to have that, and then have those people, the gatekeepers, such as yourself. I know you're not concerned about it, but other people are very concerned about, being canceled or being whatever. And, then you got people like Jay Leno that are saying, well, yeah, you got to, you got to change with the times. You got to be, if it offends people, you can't do it. And it's like, well, I don't think Jay Leno was funny like maybe 5 times when he covered for Johnny Carson. So he seems like a nice guy. I don't know. I've never met
Right.
him,
Right.
but he doesn't strike me as like, I'm going to go right up and punch it in the balls. It's
Right.
just, I think he's like, well, let's just all get along, do it. And unless you're trying to take his show, then
Right. Exactly.
then if you're David Letterman or Conan O'Brien, he'll freaking kill you. But it's,
Right. Exactly. But
you
also
know,
maybe it's like he's at a point in his life maybe where he just, he's not there to make a statement anymore. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like he's kind of like, let's just like buy another car.
yeah,
I want to buy another car.
yeah. Everybody say
Making people
something. I
mad
can't
is
buy that
not.
car.
You
Yeah,
do a better imitation than me. Buying another car is not going to be on the table if he's you know poking the line.
yeah. Yeah, it's true. But guys like Chappelle, Brewer, and Burr, and I'm sure there's other ones, they have all kind of gotten to the point where they're making their living by poking at the bear.
They should be able to. I mean, I don't agree with people bullying other people. I don't think they're doing that. So,
Yeah,
but I do think like you should be able to bring topics up, discuss them, kind of make fun of them, and then like, you should be able to. You shouldn't be able to like just like uh slander someone and
yeah.
make fun of them. And that I don't like that kind of comedy.
No,
I
there's
mean, roasts are something else. That's a whole other. That's
yeah.
if you're going to do that, and I do find roasts funny,
Hmm.
but everybody's agreed to it.
Yeah,
The person being roasted is like, yeah, you're gonna get up on the stage and be mean to me, and everyone's gonna have fun.
yeah,
That's in that. That's in that category.
yeah,
But I think that you should be able to bring up topics that are relevant that
yeah,
everybody doesn't agree with, and it doesn't mean you should like this canceling thing is like it's just boring already.
yeah.
You know,
It is. It is.
we're not in McCarthy times, supposedly.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know.
That no, 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 no. Don't say
Hmm?
it. You can't
Yeah.
say that.
No, I know. It's don't say that. But that's when you look at history and you look at the McCarthy era, it's not too far off from what we're going through. I think though, a lot of people, the thing that I've really been encouraged by is talking to people who um, I know vote differently than me, or are registered differently, or whatever the frig, believe in abortion or don't believe in abortion, whatever it is.
Right. Right.
Everybody, well, not a lot of people, I would say the majority of people are saying, um, yeah, I don't like this cancel culture shit. There's something wrong with it. There's something scary about it. It's not almost, it is evil.
Yeah.
And I think that the nice thing is, I think that's what's going to bring everybody together is this
Yeah.
this thing that came in that tried to divide everybody in such a horrific way, and um, and I think that that's the thing that's going to actually, ironically, bring people together. Is people are going to say, I don't want my friends to get canceled. I don't want to get canceled. I don't want my family to get canceled. I
Right.
know that you're trying to cancel that person. I know them. They're a good person. Fuck off.
Right.
I'm not doing it. And I
Right.
think that's what's starting to occur. It doesn't mean that the cancel people aren't gonna fight, but I mean, I've had conversations with people who consider themselves woke but don't like cancel culture. Um, and but that's okay. You cannot like the former president or the current president. That doesn't mean that you're the antichrist. It just means you don't like them for whatever the
Right.
reason.
Right.
And I think that yeah, I don't know. We live in a very interesting time, and that isn't always a good thing, but
Right.
it makes things interesting. I'll say that much.
No, it does. I mean, I actually try to stay as far away from actual news as I can because you'll get it anyway. Like I
Yeah,
find out the news.
yeah,
I have to actually watch a news program to
yeah.
get the news. Just with social media, people are just it's just like whether you're going to Twitter or Instagram or Facebook,
Yeah.
whatever. People are constantly like posting their thoughts about that article or what happened to this person or that person, so it's like you're getting the news.
Hmm.
uh Funnily enough, like I'm not often on Facebook, but sometimes I do dabble and like just check out what's going on there. And this director that I know, um she reposted something from Michael Moore.
Okay.
And I was gonna, you probably know, but because I wasn't specifically watching the news, it was like a whole research project I had when I woke up. Because so her repost was, it was um it was a page and everything was redacted on the page except for the word ketchup.
Okay.
And I was like, what's this about? Like, because she didn't write, she goes, isn't this brilliant? And I was like, I don't know. Let me read the comments. What are people saying? And then people were like, oh my God, that's hysterical. And somebody's like, yeah, that's fantastic. Oh my God, works great. Oh yeah. And then I saw the word Trump and I was like, okay, so now
Hmm.
I've got another clue. Ketchup and Trump. And I'm like, but I still don't know. So then I went back to Michael Moore's page.
Mm-hmm.
And then I tried to find that post of the redacted everything but ketchup. And then I found it. And then somebody had written something about like Mar-a-Lago and going through papers. And then I was like, what else? But I don't understand. What about what's the ketchup? So then I read something, and then I went, oh, then I did a search on Google, and I'm like, I wrote in the search words, Trump and ketchup. And then there came an article and it said I wish I had it exactly, but it was something like, what's the relationship between Trump and ketchup? I'm like, yes, that's what I want to know. And so apparently at some point when people were bad mouthing Trump, he was eating McDonald's and he threw his whole lunch against the wall, and the
Okay.
ketchup hit the wall and started streaming down. So I believe that this poster, because like they found all these papers in his Mar-a-Lago house, and a lot of them were redacted, like FBI paper or some shit papers that he took.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm still not exactly clear, but the ketchup on the wall, and I don't know. But it ended up, I wish I knew exactly. I guess I'm still not clear, but that's kind of what it had to do with. So
Mm-hmm.
because I knew about Mar-a-Lago and I knew that he ate McDonald's, like
Yeah.
from my knowledge of like pop
Yeah.
culture going on. But I
Right.
was just like, still, it's just so funny. Like, but I think that's how news is spread through these posts like this and memes like that. So I didn't really know the intricacies, and I guess I still don't. But who
Right.
cares really on that? But I was just like, but it's funny because a lot of they're non sequiturs. People
Yeah.
are speaking in non sequiturs, like everyone knows what's going on, so you should find this funny.
Well,
You
that drives me nuts. When I see, I'll report it as spam. That's how pissed off I get now. When I say,
know?
"Can we all agree that so and so is just the best ever?" No, we can't. So go fuck yourself. And I'm
Right,
marking this as spam. I hate that
right.
like big group think thing.
Yeah,
Isn't it time that we all just admit that so and so is this and just the best or the worst or whatever? And yeah, I think that's like there's certain news story when something's happened in the news, I'll like keep myself relatively engaged with the news if I can take it. Sometimes I go, I'm done. I just can't take it anymore because it's
yeah,
obviously everything. It's all so corrupt and messed up at this
yeah,
point. So I'll go to
yeah.
all of my non-official news sources who have more views than the official news sources to actually try to get a sense of what's going on.
Right.
Um, but yeah, there is so much of that stuff where people will take one thing
Yeah,
and they make it into this is the big thing, like this is the big
right,
news story or this is the
right,
meme, but you're not getting the whole story.
right,
um
right,
and like the Mar-a-Lago thing, it was interesting because depending on who you listen to, it's either justified or it's not. It was either a document pickup or a raid,
right,
and you're sitting there and you're like, I was listening to some stuff from MSNBC because I don't think anybody watches CNN anymore, but MSNBC, and they were talking about it, and it was like, oh, this is totally justified. This man has the nuclear codes and wants to blow everybody up or something.
right,
I mean,
right,
it was
right,
so
right.
over the top. And then I was listening to someone on Fox, and they're talking, and it was like completely unjustified, the destruction of democracy,
Right.
and FBI is corrupt, and you look at it and you go, well, I don't know if he should have taken the documents. And yes, the FBI is corrupt.
Right.
So where are we?
That's the thing. Don't think we'll ever know, and neither news organization is for the people
Yeah.
anymore. It's
Yeah.
all about money, and it's all about gathering, as I feel like it's all about gathering their cattle for their side.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. Like, are we still keeping our cattle here? Let's tell them we're only going to tell them this. And what about our cattle here? We're only going to tell them this.
Yeah.
And I don't think people like to believe that because they like to think that they're part of the righteous side and the good side. But
Hmm.
unfortunately, I just think we're in a time period where there's not the middle grounds you have to find outside of the mainstream media, those people who are like, well, we're just going to talk to you and we're going to just present what's going on. We're not
Yeah.
going to give you our opinions.
Yeah.
We're just going
Yeah.
to tell you this is what happened and this is what facts we found and this is and it's just like there's those people are not the people that are part of the mainstream news. I mean,
Yeah.
I think Vice was a what I haven't watched them in a while, Vice, but I felt like they were a news group that I felt like, oh wow, I feel like I'm just seeing what's going on and I'm not getting told
Hmm.
what to think.
Yeah.
You're just like, wow, this is what happened in Pakistan. This is
Yeah.
what happened in, Idaho and blah 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 blah. Back to you in the newsroom. And it's like, yeah, they're like 10-minute pieces on just what's going on. And there's no 30-minute monologues about or interviews with some other person they've gotten on who's gonna, you know, get give their opinion on what you should think and who's bad. This is
Yeah.
who's bad and this is who's good. Back to
Hmm.
you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why don't you just present the facts and let the people decide what's good and bad and don't tell the people or else they'll get used to that and that's what they've gotten used to. This
Yeah.
is what you need to believe. Where for you. They're not for you. And that's what creates the divisiveness.
Hmm.
These are the bad guys and these are the good guys.
Well, that's like one of the things I think is crazy is I mean I'm hearing it. This was something I heard. It was funny. On Fox, they were talking about how a lot of people on the left, now I call it the extreme left, I don't consider it the left,
Right.
want another civil war. I've heard people on the extreme right want a civil war too. It's not just the extreme left, it's the extremes that want. Now, how the fuck are we going to have another civil war?
It's
Like,
stupid. This is dumb. They should
it's
have the
the,
last one ended.
yeah, yeah, it's the stupidest thing. It's not geographic like it was 160 years ago, right? It's not
Right.
geographic. So,
Yeah.
am I moving out of New Jersey and going somewhere else, or are you
David
moving out of,
gotta move. Yeah.
you moving out of New York to go somewhere else? I mean, how are you going to do that? That's where like my feeling has really been that the inmates somehow got out of their rooms and they somehow got the PA system and they somehow got the cafeteria and they
Yeah.
now are like running their rambling lunacy over the PA system and deciding
Yeah.
who gets to eat. And I
Right.
feel like all of us normal, sane people we have to get them back in their rooms
Yeah.
and get the cafeteria back. And I'm
Mhm.
not saying that those people should not have a voice at
Right.
all
Right.
because they're people, right? They're human beings, but they're still in the box. So I think that is going to be an interesting challenge for us as a society, but also for comedians too. The kind of like how do we bring them in? There's going to be that person now that's like, I'm offended, and they're gonna whatever. Um,
Right. Mm.
but once they no longer have the PA system, you don't want to do to them what they did to everybody, which is that
Sure.
we cancel all of them.
Right.
But they're not rational either. So it's interesting. I mean, we're not going to solve this problem today, but what do you think?
What?
I
David, we
know.
gotta
I know.
solve this.
I
But
know.
I was thinking, I don't know if how you feel about this, but I do feel like what is it, 3 years? Would you consider 3 years of a pandemic?
I would say it's three. Yeah, because they're still trying to drag it out and they're trying to come up with new stuff, but people are kind of
Right.
done. So,
Right. So I think with this 3 years, I would say, but I think the first year was the most significant. And I don't know if we're talking about people getting the PA, the people who are just trying to like kind of like, everybody throw eggs at everyone. I got the PA, kind of people.
yeah.
I don't know if it like that was sort of the impetus for that. I mean, I'm sure it was coming, but because people were almost like stunned, like when you like spray a bug with bug spray and it kind of like just is standing there for a while, but you don't know if it's dead.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that kind of thing. I feel like the pandemic did that to people where they're like,
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know how to move about in this world, and I think that that was the time for like a lot of people to infiltrate who maybe
Mm,
ordinarily wouldn't have been able to.
yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of violence and a lot of fear and a lot of like unsure kind of moves. So I kind of feel like the uh the way the world went kind of almost like made that opening a little bit bigger. And maybe now that the world is sort of like, maybe I don't know if it's normalizing, but maybe normalizing is a good word, that maybe there'll be more opportunity for people to like just be more discerning because they'll be
Yeah.
less scared and less stunned, you know?
Yeah, because it was funny. I was talking to a friend today about it, and we were talking about the beginning of the pandemic, and I was just like, yeah, I felt like it was going to be The Stand, and I was just hoping I was a Gary Sinise character, I'm somehow immune, and
It's
but
only you and your family, New Jersey.
yeah, exactly. It's like
Right.
we're gonna see Grandma Gertrude or whatever that character's name was, make the stand. But um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it seemed to me I noticed a change, and I'm going way back in the time machine. Like 20 years ago, I was substitute teaching.
Wow, that's brave.
It
That's
sucked.
like stand up.
Oh, it's horrible. Definitely lost my shit a couple of times,
I
but
would not be able to do that.
no, I hated it.
Uh-uh.
I hated it. I'd come home and nap for like 2 hours. I was so tired. And I subbed in Paterson, New Jersey, which
Okay.
is, for anyone who's watching this who doesn't know, is um, a challenging area, to say the least. And then I subbed in Lincoln Park, New Jersey, where I'd gone to school. So it was interesting because for those kids at that time, the kids in Paterson behavior sucked, but they appreciated everything.
Okay.
The kids in Lincoln Park, their behavior was good, but they didn't appreciate things, and everybody got a trophy. I remember they had this thing called Field Day, which the school did when I was there in the 80s. And it was basically had the blue and the gold, and you competed against each other for the day. And then you would see who won. At the end of the day, there'd be the PA, so the principal would get on and say, the blue team won. And you'd hear, "Ah!" The gold team won. Ah! And people would go crazy.
Yeah.
Well, fast forward, at that point, I had been out of that school for 16, 17 years. And it was like everybody got a trophy. And I was like, but you lost. You didn't win. So why are you getting a trophy? And it was just fascinating because it changed stuff. And I feel like those kids got used to, well, I get what I want, or I complain about it, and then I throw a temper tantrum,
Wow.
and um, and then you move up and you move up and you move up the years, and then you get Trump, and a bunch of people didn't get what they wanted, and they lost their shit. They went crazy.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, a bunch of other people didn't get what they wanted 4 years before that, but they didn't go as crazy.
Right.
Went a little, still went crazy, but they didn't
Right.
go. They didn't look for any opportunity to burn and loot and pillage and
Right.
riot and whatnot.
Right. Right.
So I feel like there was something about that 16 election that triggered the hell out of people, but also scared the shit out of the elites.
Hmm.
Because the guy who's not going to play ball, he's a bull in a china shop. So he might take you out. He's going to go and tweet, knock you out in 30 characters or however many it is on Twitter. I don't even know anymore. But
That was just fucking ridiculous, though, using Twitter as a presidential tool. I'm
oh, I
sorry, but
hated it. Oh, I hate
right.
Twitter.
Yeah, me
So
too. Me too.
I didn't like. I used to sit there and think, I just hate Twitter. Can you stop doing Twitter? And can everyone stop using Twitter? It sucks. I just hated it.
Right. Yeah.
But I didn't like that. And I think for people who were already pissed off, it just sent them even further into orbit, because at that point you're just looking for shit. It was like,
Right.
I remember with Obama, there were people that hated. I remember this one guy I knew. Oh my God. He got Obama won in 2008.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I was editing something with this guy. I didn't know how to edit yet, but I remember I showed up at his house, and I was friends with him on Facebook during then, and he had a countdown on his page. And I said to him, when I saw him, I'm like, "What's the countdown for?" He goes, "It's a countdown to the next election, the when we beat
Oh
Obama."
Lord.
And I'm like, "Well, how about we let him try?" It's like,
Get a life.
yeah, how about we give the guy a shot? So over the 4 years, there were things I liked and things I didn't. And with Trump, there were things I liked and things I didn't. And, right now, there's not much I like and there's not much, that I'm happy with, but,
Right.
whatever. And, but no one's going to fulfill all of your dreams. I love JFK. He's one of my favorite presidents. I don't like the fact that he was banging his interns in front of his friends in the presidential pool.
That's not cool.
Kind of a bad thing, a little creepy.
Yeah.
So
it's really actually hard to learn about people's proclivities, who you really like.
yeah.
Kind of like, you know what I mean? But that, I mean, it goes with entertainers as well. You're like, damn.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard some stuff as the years have gone on, and I'm like, well, it's kind of tough to watch that movie.
Yeah.
Knowing some of that shit. But
Right.
but I think it's just like I don't know. It's there's something about, I think, the election of 16 that just drove people off the deep end, and then the pandemic came, and I'm just fascinated. I don't know if we'll find out the answer in our lifetime, but did people in charge see an opportunity to get everyone to not pay too much attention to shit that they were doing, and instead kind of cede their power and redistribute their wealth around, and the buying out of all this farmland and property is crazy.
I just feel like also the profit that went on during the pandemic with people who were already beyond wealthy, like Jeff Bezos, and to I don't know, the profiteering on it just seems out of proportion for there should have been something capped on that.
Well, I agree. I mean, did Pfizer really need to make what initially the first year was $12 billion, and then I think the next year was $28 billion. And they every time there's like, oh, we're going to have medication for that. And then we start finding out all of this stuff that people were concerned about is starting to, like, there's a lot of medical proof that it does some freaky shit, not to everybody, but to some people.
But the whole thing, it's the I think the pharmaceutical industry is definitely corrupt, but they're owned by the government, but then they're paying. I mean, it's just right.
They're also paying the FDA. They provide, like, I forgot the percentage, but I think the majority of the FDA's funding. So
there's nobody watching anybody anymore is where we stand. There's nobody watching the Bezos. There's nobody watching the pharmaceuticals. And, I mean, the same thing with the media as well. So that's why everyone has to go off book. They have to go on YouTube to listen to people, or go on somebody's Patreon or whatever, or people can't use words on IG, so they have to make crazy words so that they won't get censored and taken down. And it's just like,
it's exhausting.
So then it's just everyone. So because everybody wants, not everyone, but they want a streamlined thing. Everyone has to think this and believe this, and if there's other opinions, then you're ruining everything. So
well, I think that was the thing that I found most disturbing about the pandemic, was that if you questioned any of the pharmaceutical companies, you were a killer. You were a communist, you were this, you were that, you were a Russian bot. I mean, it was so much absurdity.
Right.
Well, but a lot of those questions were from legitimate doctors. And the creator of the mRNA vaccine, who said it's not being used correctly and you're not administering it correctly for a lot of people.
Right.
Well, we needed to hear that so that we could be sure that we weren't jeopardizing people.
Right.
But because there was such a intense silencing, and Fauci orchestrated a lot of it, of like, oh, we need to blacklist these people. It just created this mess, and
Right.
we needed. That's how you keep things honest, but people didn't want it honest, and I think that that's the thing that is interesting.
Well, that goes back to comedy too, with
Yeah,
the censoring of stand up. But I kind of just believe again, um, you know, if people are scared, if you get people scared, and somebody says to you, you know, people are going to die, and people are already scared, and they're just like, this is the answer, and somebody's threatening your safety that you think, right? I'm just saying, devil's advocate.
yeah,
Um, people are just going to be like, yeah, shut them up.
mm-hmm.
Everybody wants to live. Just shut up too. And that's
Yeah,
the thing. They made the people so scared, which for good reason, people died, right? And then people were locked up
yeah,
for a year. So people were just like, yeah, we just want to be free and we want to live.
yeah,
So everybody should shut the fuck up.
mm-hmm.
That's how it, and the people that were the entities that wanted to take advantage of that was pretty easy to take advantage of a scared person or a
Yeah,
scared group of a scared world. Because the scared world's like, yeah, man, do what you got to do, man. Just save our lives. So yeah, everyone should shut up. And that's how they got away with it. And so in that, I just think that again, maybe as people get a little bit more strong, they won't be as uh, you know, what's that sound?
oh, my wife's making dinner.
What's for dinner?
Chicken, peppers, and
Nice.
onions. So
Whoa,
it
chicken.
smells good. If I could send the aroma
Well,
to you, I
no
would.
potatoes or rice.
I don't know about the potatoes or rice today.
I will object to that then. So it's just peppers and onions, but wow, I don't know. I'd have something to say if I were there.
I'm trying to eat. I'm trying to eat
Oh
cleaner.
yeah, no,
Yeah. So
you're right. Oh, that's nice. That's so
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah. So, but I was hoping you couldn't hear all that noise, but apparently you can. So.
The technology is crazy today. You probably can hear my neighbor's air conditioner, the hum of it. Can you?
No. No,
Oh,
that I can hear.
you can't.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's so
So.
funny because that's going to be one of the next hopeful bits that I do. Uh, I have a friend, and whenever I get on the phone with her, she starts doing dishes.
Really?
And I'm like, "Are you doing your dishes?" She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "It's hurting my ear." Like, what? Like, do you have to do them now?
Yeah.
She's just like, "Oh, well, I didn't know you could hear it." I'm like, "Oh my God, technology! I mean, you're in my ear." I could hear like somebody yelling from across the street when you're on the phone. I can hear you banging dishes. So,
Yeah.
but
I
anyway,
know. I
so
know.
that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah. Well, you can add this to your bit. You're more than welcome to. I'd be honored. So, well, I want to thank you for coming on. It was a pleasure.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We'll do it again. But yeah, it was a pleasure to have you on, and we're going to be talking a bit more anyway, but it's I appreciate it.
Yeah, same.
Okay, cool.
All right.
So, all right, bye-bye.
Bye.